Hello and welcome to the DIY Photo Organising podcast, focusing on topics to help you with your photo management. I am Chantal from Photos in Order.
And I'm Fiona from Photo Helper. Hi, Chantal.
Hello, Fiona. How are you?
Hello. I'm good.
Very good.
All right. So today we're going to tackle a topic that we realize is a reality that we think that is a really important one for us to address, and that is how to deal with photos that are difficult to look at.
Mm-hmm.
Difficult for us to go through for a whole range of different reasons, and we just want to really empower you today, and just come alongside you and understand that yes, this is difficult, and this can be a real block for people to deal with their photos as a whole, and we just wanted to really address it and give you some options and let this be something that we can appreciate, accept and acknowledge, and then also with some practical options for you to still move through and deal with these difficult photos. So that is the topic that we're going to deal with today.
Okay, sounds very, it's a bit of a deeper, more serious topic.
Yeah.
But that's life.
It is.
Things happen and we can't always be happy every minute of the day. It's just not a reality. It's never going to happen. So how do we deal with that? And as you said, probably everyone has photos of, it can be a person, it can be a place, it can be anything that brings back memories that are difficult, that remind us of times that were really hard for us, bad times. And a typical one that people tell us about and ask questions is one that we've actually had a separate episode about, what to do with photos in case of a separation or a divorce. We had Dala as a guest and she talked about that, and this is one of the big ones that is just the reality for so many people.
Yep, and they're difficult. They're really difficult. So we understand that. So yeah, there's those definitely photos that are in a collection that people struggle with what to do, and they're very painful for people to have there and deal with. Also the death of someone in the family, obviously that's a very difficult thing to know that they're in your collection, and what do you do with them? It could be a younger person or an older person or anywhere in between, and just as difficult and painful.
Yes.
And then also a lot of types of photos in a collection, if you have been through obviously a very painful, and look, we're coming at this, we're not psychologists.
No.
We're not but we my heart is to help people, and I think photos can be a very powerful way to either heal from some of these things, and a very powerful way to, and we're going to give you some new ways to look at this and some new ways to maybe consider how you want to address these areas of your life. And so we're just coming at this as people that help others to organize their photos or look at ways to deal with it. And so these are areas that we've both seen through a lot, and some of those are maybe addictions people have had as an area of their life that they know that they've captured photos that might bring up that feeling of a time when they went through some kind of an addiction or some kind of abuse, some kind of health issue, financial difficulty, things like that people have been through, and or else maybe even emotions that come up for people when they they think of different times of their life, and they know they've got photos in their collection that might bring up emotions of disappointment or sadness, regret for things that have happened, frustration, grief, and things like that. So bearing that in mind, we are going to talk about some of the options, some of our thoughts, and some things that we've seen others do and things that maybe we've done ourselves, but definitely some different ways that you can still move through your photo projects and the organising of your photos, knowing that these photos are there. And so let's jump into some options for people. Hey?
Let's try that.
Let's do that.
And look, maybe we should say first, there is no right or wrong. And we're not saying, oh, you got to try that, and run with our little idea or something. It's just ideas. It's just our thoughts, our reflections. We're not saying do that. That's going to be working for you. As Fiona said, we're not psychologists. That's not our field. And, this is just our own personal thoughts about how we could deal with those and trying to come up with ways that might help you.
Yeah. And it's funny, isn't it, Chantal? We were talking just before we were recording, actually, and we were saying we should have just recorded our chat before, because it was all, and so that's exactly what we're going to do. It really is just us talking, which is often what our podcasts are about, us just having a bit of a chat. But thankfully people like that, which is awesome. But it really is. It's just, it's hopefully going to bring you some ideas and options to think about this differently. So one of those, jump on in. You go first. You jump in.
I go first. Okay.
What are some of your thoughts?
Well, one that comes to mind when we go back, what we mentioned first before with separations and divorces, because this is just such a common one that we come across with our clients as well. I think that's a good one to start with. So often, people would say, what do I do with these photos? I really, I feel like I want to throw them all out. The wedding photos, the whatnot, there's heaps of photos. I just want to throw them out. And some people do that. And if that works for them, who are we to say that's the wrong thing to do? We're not saying that wouldn't be right. As an option, or just a thought maybe for you, and that's really all that what we want to do today is give you food for thought and, come up with something that works for you personally. So maybe you throw out the majority, but you keep some, but maybe you don't keep them in your main photo hub. Maybe you want to keep them separate on a USB or, on a different account or something, especially if you've got children, because it's part of their story as well, and they have their own story. So it's a different story from your story. And so maybe even if they tell you, no, I'm not interested, you may, a bit further down the track, they might be interested, because oftentimes I find with photos, it's also a thing of age, really, that very young people, they're not so much interested in the preservation of these stories and photos, but it tends to come with age. That's what my personal observation and experience, I've noticed that, which sort of makes sense. So, maybe just keep a few, but don't keep them where they're in your face, so that you're not reminded of that time that didn't end well. So maybe that's an option, just keep some away from all the rest.
Yeah, and look, I think another way that you could deal with that is, and this is sort of also collectively about other areas of your life that you might want to capture something that has been a difficult time in your life, is use this opportunity to think about reflecting back on what you can take away from this experience or that situation, either the relationship that has ended for whatever reason, either a difficulty it's ended or someone's passed away and it's ended. So whatever that sort of difficult situation is, look back on something that you can take away from it and grab a picture of something that can capture that for you. So maybe that's a place that brings you strength. It might be if it's a faith-based, everyone has different faiths or not. It could be a location or something like that, or even a flower or that brings you joy, so that you can almost anchor a new memory and a new trigger that reminds you of that time in a different way. So instead of going to those emotions of maybe regret or disappointment or grief or hurt, it can bring you to a place where you can reflect in a different way about that and almost bring you to a current memory of where you are now. And again, understanding and being very sensitive to the fact that that may not be where you're at yet. And so you may not be in that place where you can reflect yet. It might be very real and raw and current. And so that could be something that is done at a later time. And maybe putting aside those photos and not dealing with them now is then the option. But if you have, and you have moved through, and this is something which is in the past now, then picking a new thing. It could be, like I was saying, a flower or a, that really brings you strength and brings you a way that you can, anchor that feeling to something, that time to something different now.
I really like
and that might be your way, of capturing that.
It's interesting that you say, a place or something that gave you strength. As you said before, we discussed the whole topic of air, but only now what comes to mind for me during all those lockdowns, and we're in Melbourne, we're in our 6th lockdown, we've had it. We want out. But what we discovered in one of the lockdowns was really a bushland reserve sort of thing that was always here. We lived here for 10 years. We didn't know about it. We discovered new ways to go bushwalking there, and it's in our allowed radius of 5 kilometers. And it's just beautiful. And somewhere in there is a tree, a specific tree, and I just felt drawn to that one tree. And this has become my place of power and strength. And when I feel down, I go there just by myself and just soak it all up. It's really,
Wow,
so
it's lovely.
if I and I have taken photos of that tree, and that tree will forever represent that time that we're going through.
Yeah.
And it doesn't bring back, I'm not looking at the tree and getting upset. It's the opposite from what you just described, sort of redirected that difficult time to something beautiful, because it remembers me, that's my tree, and this is how it made me feel.
I think that's, and I think that's exactly it, Chantal, because when you capture that, you've already created that new emotion, and then what I would suggest then is, in a difficult time, if you were to capture the moments of lockdown and this isolation and the pandemic and what it has meant with separation from loved ones, and so, so many things that are difficult to deal with, to be able to reframe and reflect back differently and anchor something like that with that experience that you've already felt, and then a photo to allow yourself to still remember those times. And
Yeah.
that's a great way that you could do that. Someone could do that with say, some of these difficult moments and experiences and life events
Mm.
that they've been through, and that they're in their photo collection. And that's a really great example of being
Mm.
able to take something and add that meaning to it from the past,
Yeah. Yeah. And
which
yes,
is
and
good.
it is on that level of the emotions, and especially with difficult times, we don't take photos, to take, if we had financial problems, we're not going to take a photo of our bookkeeping balance sheet or something.
Mm,
That might be a stupid example, but you know what I mean.
mm,
We're not
yeah,
documenting that like we document a trip. So, it, and if we still want to include it somehow, we'll find something else that represents that time. And
yeah.
it can be anything. This is so personal.
And this is the thing with
Yeah.
memories. There's such powerful things, our
Mm,
memories. When if people think about their photos and
mm,
these feelings come up about, disappointment, grief, and regret and things like that, it can be a trigger of a memory, and we attach these things to a photo that is giving us this experience.
mm-hmm,
So to be able to um, almost let go of that,
mm-hmm,
create a new opportunity for yourself
mm-hmm,
to reframe the past experience or event.
mm-hmm,
Because I've been reading some research recently, actually, on memory and linking that to photos.
mm-hmm,
And there's some research that's been done around this exact topic of memory linking with photos,
mm-hmm,
and we almost create an event and a memory to a photo that we've seen, that becomes quite powerful,
mm-hmm.
and we can break that cycle and relink this to something else. So it's, there's a lot of, and something that I'm going to be doing more of, which I'm
Mm.
excited about, is
Yeah.
really understanding this a lot
Mm-hmm,
more.
mm-hmm,
So it's real, and we're really aware of this, the impact that this has, and this hesitation that in this area. So
mm.
what else could we do, Chantal? What else have
Um,
we got?
so another thought that we had was around um, taking time and, allow yourself to feel those emotions, to go through
Mm,
them. We're not saying, if a photo makes you sad because it's of a person that um, has passed away, we're not saying just ignore that. We will
yep.
never do that.
Mm,
Just allow those emotions that come up and don't ignore it, because it's part of you, and
mm,
it's you going through that experience, and it's part
mm,
of you and your life, and it's part of what you are now. We not, with photos, we look into the past,
mm.
but it's not about living in the past, or things like that. It's really because it's part of you. I don't know, I can't put it into really good words,
Mm,
but I hope it comes across what I mean. So what the past is part of who we are now,
mm.
and those experiences have shaped us. So I think it's
Yes.
good to try and find acceptance in that, and appreciation even, and uh, against sort of what you mentioned before, like redirecting it into something that makes us feel more empowered.
Mm.
Um, yeah, so,
Absolutely. Yeah, no, it's true. It's good. It's that reframing,
yeah, yeah.
acknowledging,
That's the word I
um,
was after, yes.
yeah,
Yeah,
acknowledging it,
yes,
I think
yes,
is
yeah.
powerful. And you know get help to do this. You know,
Mm-hmm.
this is definitely how people do that, and you know, is important. And there's a lot of supports and things like that out there.
Mm.
Um, and so I think when we tackle, you know, our photos, all of these things come up, and it is a
Mm.
very, it's a very natural step. It's not just a, you know, a systematic process, you know,
Mm.
do this, you know, from a process driven type of a thing. These are our photos, these are our emotions, our
Mm.
experiences, our past. And it's inevitable that these things will come
Mm.
up. And I think, yeah, allowing yourself to feel that,
Mm-hmm.
um, but how to, what to do with the actual photos themselves
Mm.
is, you know, there are different options available, I think. And this is something in how you acknowledge those experiences,
Mm.
and how it has shaped us, as you know, to where we're at today.
Mm.
um yeah.
I think it also ties nicely into our episode 72, I think it was, where we talked about which 100 photos would you choose to
mm,
document your life. I think it ties into that topic very nicely, um, because we don't need so many photos, actually, if we really
mm,
think about it. And when we want to document our life, the less joyful and happier moments are, they deserve a place as well.
mm,
Yeah, because they're part of it. So I think, just to sort of reiterate that again, what you mentioned early on is you don't have to deal with them right now if you don't feel like it. If it's too hard,
mm.
give yourself that freedom to just park it, to leave them alone for now, and revisit when you feel ready.
Yeah.
And possibly, as you said, with someone to help you with
mm,
with that whole project. It
yeah.
it might not be necessary, but sometimes it is good to have some help, um, and it might make it a little bit easier.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, so I really hope this is a source of encouragement to be able to move through some of these photos that are difficult,
Hmm.
and think of an idea as to just a different way of thinking about that, what you do with them,
Mm-hmm.
and some of those options that, you know, that we've talked about, with either leaving them alone, you know, taking a photo that has represented the growth perhaps that you can see, or you can find a growth that has come from enduring a situation that has been difficult,
Mm-hmm.
and link the memory of these new emotions and experiences to that time. So that photo, that new photo,
Mm-hmm.
and it might be a new photo like a tree or a flower or a place, um, or something meaningful to you, or it could even be one photo from that event that you really do link the growth that you've
Mm-hmm.
experienced, or something that you can take away
Mm-hmm.
from that moment in your life. And that could be, yeah, that just could be a way that you could then put them aside, or
Mm.
then release them
Yeah.
and continue on, and
Mm.
then continue on with the rest of what you're doing with your photos. So I really hope that that can be a way that could unblock some things and some struggles that people are having. It's definitely
Mm.
something that comes up in topics and conversations,
Mm-hmm.
doesn't it, Chantal?
It does. And look, we would love to hear from you if you have been in that situation, if you've come up with a solution that works for you, that you'd be prepared to share with others. We'd love to hear from
Mm,
you. And that, if you're prepared to share that, just go over on our social media accounts. You can share it there in comments, or you can also just send us an email, and it will stay, you know, unpublic, confidential.
Yes.
That's the word. Unpublic.
Exactly.
Does that even
Yeah,
exist?
that works. Yeah.
But we'd really love to hear that, because we have nothing. We have our lives that we can use as examples, but and some of examples from clients. But we always like to hear how others deal with these sort of things, and what they've come up, what works for them or doesn't work for them. That's also important to know, actually. So please, we'd welcome that very much. If we hear from you, that'd be really great. And we hope, as always, that this has given you some food for thought and some ideas how to deal with those photos that represent difficult times in life. And we're looking forward to our next episode. I'm Chantal from Photos in Order.
And I'm Fiona from Photo Helper. Thanks so much for joining us. And as always, happy photo organising. Bye for now.
Bye.